Welcome back to What Is It About the Weather presents You Ask, We Answer. This week's question, favorite summer foods. What are yours? So mine, as you can see, I've been enjoying here as I wrap up another hot Atlanta day with temperatures just now at past 7 p.m. getting down below 35 C and 94 Fahrenheit. Watermelon cold, fills the stomach, not too many calories, very tasty, and it just is a reminder of the season. You know, weather brings us so many great foods during the summertime. So I think I'm going to finish up this piece of watermelon, and we're going to talk about a few more of mine and your favorites. Okay, before I get into the actual fruit again, we got to talk a little bit about the research. Wouldn't be one of my shows if I didn't talk a little bit about the research. But the key word with the research this time around is inconclusive. You can see here I've got an article that's a good summary from NPR from a few years ago, and I'll put a link in the show notes, from some of the past studies, some of which seem to show that we eat more heavier or higher calorie foods in the wintertime than maybe we do in spring and summer. But some of the more recent research suggests maybe that's not the case. So enough about the research. This isn't about real research. It's about, it's highly scientific research, right? The Facebook-oriented research that I do sometimes. So as usual, I went out to the group that's more weather-oriented and the one that's more general populace, and I asked the question, so what are your favorite summertime foods? And let's see what they had to say and see if you agree. So the first runner-up after watermelon, which was popular with more than just me, actually it seemed to be the number one item on the list, were peaches. That's right, tree-ripened peaches. Now, we're a little early, and this item came out of the grocery store, and, well, it was still a little hard, but the visuals there nonetheless. And a cousin of peaches, nectarines, which are a little more prominent this time of year, also showed up on the list. Although after peaches and watermelon, the third option was strawberries. Yeah, you can think of all sorts of ways to have strawberries, right? It can be just a fresh one that you eat individually, or in ice cream, or in pies or cakes. All sorts of ways to enjoy a strawberry. Now this next vegetable or fruit, the tomato. Yeah, I know it's a fruit, but we all seem to think of it as a vegetable as well. And it's probably because of the differences in flavors. But what was interesting about tomatoes is kind of what we're seeing here. The number one comment with it was homegrown tomatoes, not just any run-of-the-mill grocery store tomato. And this kind of picks up on the common theme that I think we're seeing here is those foods that give us that more robust or fullness and flavor, not stuff that's off-season. I mean, with world produce the way it is today, we can get tomatoes year-round, right? But growing your own at home and picking them off when they're just ready to eat, somehow that flavor is more intense and more enjoyable. And you did it yourself, so there's that appeal as well. But the interesting thing about tomatoes is nobody just said tomatoes. Everybody said tomatoes with something. Almost always it was a sandwich, and because some of my folks live in the South, I didn't get BLT, but just a tomato sandwich with mayonnaise. So put that on your list to try if you hadn't. Now, a few more items. So these next two were also in the vegetable family. The first, an onion. Now, I know you're thinking to yourself, summertime onion? This ain't old any onion. That's a Vidalia sweet onion. Again, comes from a certain area, has a name, has a sweetness that goes along with something else we'll talk about. And move the onion out of the way, and another one from summertime. Not just corn or any old corn, but sweet corn, okay? Some people it's Silver Queen, others have different varieties, but kind of like the Vidalia onion, there's an extra, flavor to it. It's not just the run-of-mill stuff you get year-round. It has that sweetness or that summertime kind of extra enjoyable flavor. Now, those were kind of what I would call the raw foods. Let's talk a little bit about some of the foods that take a little more effort. So the last item wasn't a food item at all, but more a category of food that you cook on one of these bad boys, a barbecue grill. So let's see if we can't, nice and clean, get this thing fired up and enjoy the season and that seasonal activity of doing outside barbecues. Thanks everybody for the great inputs for this episode. Sorry I wasn't able to touch on all the items like the mangoes and the blackberries and even the chirimoya of chili. So there's some other great foods that people associate with different seasons, and hopefully now your weather will be great and enjoyable so that you can enjoy those foods as well. Yeah, and maybe pick up a few new favorites. Remember, learn all about RSVP over at whatisitabouttheweather.com. And now for the final category as we close this episode, ice cream. I know some people mentioned, different things like peach ice cream, homemade peach ice cream. But for me, it's a simple thing, really. That's an ice cream sandwich, which I'm now going to enjoy and say farewell.
This is 2 White Super Production.